Imagine waking up to a world where the sky is on fire and the very ground beneath you trembles. If a nuclear holocaust were to strike, where would be the most perilous places on Earth? While no corner of the globe would truly be safe in such a cataclysm, some regions would undoubtedly face more devastation than others. In this video, we dive into a chilling scenario that's haunted many. If a nuclear Third World War were to erupt, what would be the primary targets for America's nuclear arsenal? Buckle up as we explore the strategic bullseyes that would shape this apocalyptic battlefield. Imagine this: it's the year 2024, and the United States holds the world's second largest nuclear arsenal with 5,044 weapons ready to deploy. While that number is a far cry from the Cold War peak of 32,000 warheads, it's still enough to make any adversary think twice. Back in the day, the US had behemoths like the B-41 bomb, a 25-megaton monster that could light up the sky. Today, the most powerful weapon in the US stockpile is the B-83 bomb with a 1.2 megaton yield, though its days may be numbered as leaders push for its retirement. But don't be fooled, America's nuclear might is more than sufficient to devastate 25% of the population and 66% of the industrial capacity of its major foes. This grim reality is what former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara called mutually assured destruction. The concept is straightforward yet chilling. The sheer power of these weapons ensures that no rational leader would dare to start a nuclear war. So exactly what kinds of nuclear weapons does the US have up its sleeve? First, there are strategic warheads, long-range, high-yield weapons that can strike fear into any adversary. These are the backbone of America's nuclear deterrent. Then there are the tactical nuclear weapons, the smaller, more flexible tools of nuclear warfare. These include bombs, missiles, and even artillery shells. The Federation of American Scientists estimates that the United States deploys about 100 such weapons, all of them being of the variable-yield B-61 bomb. The Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation estimates that the US has 20 of these in Turkey, 15 each in Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany, and 35 in Italy. Why the spread across Europe, you ask? It's all about deterring Russian aggression against NATO allies. These tactical nukes are strategically placed to send a clear message. Any move against our allies will be met with overwhelming force. The locations of these weapons also hint at some of the primary targets in a nuclear conflict. Next up, we have Crimea, a target that practically paints itself on a map. Sevastopol, the traditional home of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, is one of the few warm water ports crucial to Russia's maritime trade. Elsewhere on the peninsula, Kerch would also be in the crosshairs. While Kerch saw fierce battles in World War II, it didn't play a significant role during the Cold War. Today it's a very different story. The Kerch Bridge has turned the city into a vital supply hub for Russian forces in Ukraine and the Black Sea. Ukraine has tried to destroy the bridge multiple times without success, but imagine an American tactical B-61 bomb from Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, or a strategic warhead from an intercontinental ballistic missile (ICBM) or submarine-launched ballistic missile (SLBM) obliterating it. That would be a game changer. Moving nearby on the Russian mainland, the port of Novorossiysk is a prime target. After Ukrainian maritime drones and missile attacks drove the Black Sea Fleet from Sevastopol, they retreated to this port, one of the largest in the Black Sea. Then there's Rostov-on-Don, the site of the Wagner Rebellion in June 2023. This city is a prime candidate for America's tactical nuclear bombs stationed in Turkey. As the headquarters of Russia's southern military district and a critical logistical hub, its destruction would deal a significant blow to Russian military operations. Further north lies another critical target, the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad. This small but strategically important area would be a high-priority target for America's B-61 bombs stationed in Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Kaliningrad is too small to justify using a Trident II SLBM, which is packed with multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, MIRVs. Instead, it would likely come under attack from a B-61 bomb, or if necessary, an ICBM with a single warhead. Attacking Kaliningrad through conventional means would be a tough operation. In contrast, a nuclear attack would destroy it for sure. It's one of Russia's most heavily fortified areas. Between 9,000 and 200,000 troops are stationed there. Offensive and defensive missiles are also concentrated there, along with airfields, advanced radar systems, and some of Russia's nuclear weapons. The reasons for the fortification are obvious. Kaliningrad is wedged between Poland and Lithuania, has no land connection to the Russian mainland, and can only be resupplied by sea. Russia needs it to more effectively threaten NATO's eastern frontier and the shipping lanes in the Baltic, which is now effectively a NATO lake. A nuclear scenario would almost certainly see an attempt to remove Kaliningrad from the board. Russia's bases in Belarus would also likely come under attack from America's tactical nuclear weapons in Europe, or perhaps an SLBM launched from an Ohio-class submarine if the need for more power should arise. Since 2023, Belarus hosts some of Russia's tactical nuclear weapons. Russia has 3 permanent bases in Belarus. The first of these is the Baranovichi radar station, about 50 kilometers from the city of the same name. The second is the Vilyeka VLF transmitter near the town of the same name. The third is the Baranovichi airbase, located south of the city of the same name. If America used a tactical B-61 on the base, the nearby cities would likely not suffer from the worst effects. However, if the bases were targeted by strategic nuclear warheads with yields of 400 kilotons or more, they would suffer far more damage and radioactive fallout. The city of Baranovichi, in particular, would likely be a target for a more substantial, strategic warhead. It has a high population of about 169,000 people, has significant industrial activity, and is an important rail and road junction in western Belarus. Because of its ability to act in these capacities against NATO, especially in an operation against the Suwalki Gap, taking it out would be strategically desirable. The Russian city of St. Petersburg would likely be targeted by a strategic nuclear weapon. It's Russia's only enclave on the Baltic from its mainland and has a population of about 5.6 million people as of the 2021 Russian census. Aside from its high population and strategic value, St. Petersburg is also a financial and industrial center, the headquarters of the Western Military District and Russian Navy, and has the nearby naval base at Kronstadt. In the far north, the Murmansk area would also be a target of a strategic nuclear weapon, with a Trident II SLBM via an Ohio-class submarine being the ideal way to launch the attack. Although declining, it has a relatively high population at about 270,000 as of 2021, the most of any city north of the Arctic Circle. More importantly, the Murmansk area hosts the Russian naval base of Severomorsk, which is only about 25 kilometers away from the city. This base is the headquarters of Russia's Northern Fleet. Russia's only aircraft carrier, the troubled Admiral Kuznetsov, has been undergoing dry dock repairs in Murmansk since 2018. The area is also a hub of Russian submarine activity, particularly around the nearby Okolnaya Bay and Gadzievo submarine base. This area made headlines in recent years as the host of Russia's so-called Doomsday Sub, the Belgorod, with its host of supposedly tsunami-inducing Poseidon drone torpedoes. Although there are many reasons to suspect that Russia is lying about the attributes of both the Belgorod submarine and the Poseidon torpedo, taking out Russia's submarine infrastructure would be a high priority for the United States in a nuclear confrontation. Doing so would limit Russia's ability to retaliate with its own nuclear weapons launched via submarine, or at least the American brass would hope. Fortunately for the United States, Russia's geography means that it must concentrate its naval resources in a few areas. Another of these would be the port city of Arkhangelsk, which got a military overhaul in 2018. The port's logistical capacity was increased thanks to a new facility that can host 31,500 square meters of indoor and 300,000 of outdoor space. The new logistics center can handle over 1 million tons per year to help Russia's northern fleet. The area also hosts a missile and submarine base at Noyanoksar. Moscow would perhaps be the highest priority target. With about 12.7 million people, it's the largest city in Russia, as well as the country's capital. However, destroying it would do more than cripple Russia's government and destroy much of its population. The city is a center of industrial and economic activity, and it sits at the center of Russia's federal highway network. The destruction of this network would greatly harm Russia's economy, the ability to supply its military, and ability to govern the country. Notably, the administrative districts in Siberia connect with Moscow by road, but not with each other. Moscow's road network, therefore, allows it to act as the center of power in the vast Russian Federation. Without this connection, much of Siberia would see a chance for independence, as would many of the areas in the Caucasus, which are connected to Moscow in the same way. Since Russian territory east of the Ural Mountains is sparsely populated, the United States would likely see no need to attack the many targets in the vast wildernesses. However, one city in the Russian Far East would certainly be a target: Vladivostok. The city has a population of about 600,000 and serves as the headquarters of Russia's Pacific Fleet. Vladivostok is not a warm water port, but it is nevertheless a major fishing hub and center of trade. It connects with the European-Russian heartland via the Trans-Siberian Railway, of which it is the origin or final stop, depending on if you're going east or west. Destroying this port would force much of Russia's Pacific trade to go on much longer and costlier routes and further cripple the Russian economy. World War III would involve more than the United States and Russia, however. World wars are by their nature multipolar struggles. Russia is at the moment forging partnerships with like-minded authoritarian countries. China, North Korea, and Iran have been particularly important. All of these countries seek to remake the world order in a more authoritarian image and reduce the influence the United States has in the international system. Although they have not signed a formal military alliance, they are increasingly cooperating with each other in all domains. In a scenario with China, the United States has no nearby tactical nuclear weapons to call on, thanks to the withdrawal of these weapons from its bases in Japan and South Korea. It would therefore use strategic warheads. SLBMs from submarines patrolling the Indo-Pacific region would almost certainly be the weapon of choice. The United States has a heavy advantage over China in nuclear warfare, which is why the latter has begun a nuclear buildup. China's nuclear arsenal doubled from about 250 warheads a decade ago to 500 today, and at its current pace, experts believe Beijing will have 1,500 warheads by 2035. This number is about the same as the United States is allowed to deploy under the terms of the New START Treaty. However, China remains at a disadvantage for now. Most of China's nuclear weapons consist of ICBM silos, of which it recently built 120 new ones near Yumen in the interior Gansu province. These can hide activity, but the fields are easy to find via satellite imaging. China also does not have a nuclear triad with the maturity that America has, which means it has less ability to retaliate in the event of a successful nuclear first strike. To make matters worse, in January 2024, a scandal broke out in the Chinese military, alleging that these silos have improper lids and that the missiles therefore cannot launch. China has constructed more mobile ICBM launchers to make up for its land-based shortcomings. Notable bases for China's nuclear arsenal include the southern interior Hunan province, Yunnan near the southern border, and various parts of central China, though there are scatterings of other hotspots, including around Beijing. All of these bases would be targets, and Beijing would be targeted even if nuclear assets were not concentrated there, due to it being China's capital. It also has a high population of about 22 million people. Beijing is also an important economic and industrial center. Destroying it would destroy much of China's ability to function as a state. Although most of its nuclear forces are land-based ICBMs, China does have a nuclear triad, and removing its submarines from the chessboard will be a high priority for America's war planners. This is why Hainan Island is a target that would likely come under attack from America's SLBMs as one of the first targets. The island hosts the Yulin Naval Base on its southern end. This base has a significant portion of China's submarine fleet, which includes the Type 094 Jing-class submarine. China only has 6 of these. Nevertheless, each one is a big danger in nuclear warfare. Since at least November 2022, the Type 094 is armed with JL-3 missiles, which have the range to reach the continental United States from the waters of the South China Sea. Taking these submarines out would therefore be a high priority. Yulin is also the center of China's projection of power in these disputed waters, making it an obvious target, even if it had no other attributes. Shanghai would certainly be another target. It's China's largest city with nearly 30 million people. It's also China's busiest port and a major financial center. Shanghai also has several military functions. It's the area in which the infamous Cyber Warfare Unit 61398 operates. This is the PLA group behind China's Operation Shady Rat Hackings, which have stolen valuable American military secrets. The area is particularly important to China's naval buildup, as Shanghai's Changjing Island has become a hub of shipbuilding activity, including supporting work on China's Fujian aircraft carrier, the country's first to boast a catapult launch system. Another target would likely include the Zhuri training base in Inner Mongolia. This is China's largest military station. Infamously, it includes mock-ups of downtown Taipei, including Taiwan's presidential palace. Curiously, it also includes a look-alike of the Eiffel Tower. Since the area is relatively isolated from civilian population centers, the American brass wouldn't have any qualms about taking this one out in an already worst-case scenario. A full-scale World War III would include China's ally North Korea. Its nuclear program may be menacing to the world, but North Korea is not in a position to contest the United States in all-out nuclear warfare. Experts estimate it has between 30 and 60 warheads, but it does not have a nuclear triad. Its only means of delivery are land-based ICBMs. Some of these pose a danger to the American homeland. Removing these missiles would be the highest priority to limit retaliation. The United States would likely use Trident SLBMs as its weapon of choice in the operation against North Korea. Pyongyang would be the first target, since it's the country's capital, largest population center, the country's main industrial area, and hosts a number of military activities. Other targets would be those involved in North Korea's nuclear program. North Korea launches its missiles via mobile launchers. These are harder to pinpoint than silos, but since most of North Korea's missiles are liquid-fueled, launching them will require more time. The United States would try to take advantage of this and destroy their likeliest locations first. North Korea claims it's building silos, but this has not been verified. While North Korea keeps many of its military bases underground, one likely target would be the Hojung-ni missile operating base near the Chinese border. North Korea seems to be outfitting this area to operate some of its ICBMs. There are an estimated 20 more of these bases stretched across the 3 missile belts. The first is the tactical belt in the south, consisting of shorter-range systems to cover targets in northern and middle South Korea. The second is the operational belt, stretching between Pyongyang and Wonsan. These missiles would cover targets further away in the region, but not enough to hit the continental United States. The strategic belt in the country's north would host its ICBMs. For that reason, America would prioritize the strategic belt first, but nearly all of North Korea's landmass from coast to coast would become a target. It does not have the benefit of size like Russia and China do. Such bombardment would also likely be necessary to target North Korea's underground bases, of which it has many. Some of these have been verified, but many remain hidden to American intelligence. Since Iran has no nuclear weapons, it would likely not suffer the worst of the attack. However, the United States would want to make sure it could not take advantage of the inevitable power vacuum that would arise from a nuclear confrontation. Tehran would be the first target, since it's the country's capital and largest population center. Other targets would include Iran's nuclear facilities, such as the Arak nuclear complex in the country's west, the Isfahan research reactor, the Fordow and Natanz uranium enrichment centers, and the Ardakan facility, which has been suspected of being able to produce yellowcake. Some of Iran's military bases would also come under attack. These are mainly concentrated on the Persian Gulf and in the country's west. Hundreds of millions of people would die in these combined attacks. The United States would also not be able to completely stop retaliation, even if it achieved a surprise and accurate first strike, so many millions of Americans would also die. The world would look very different after a nuclear attack than before, and even the winner would lose far more power than it had before the exchange, as the loss of millions of people, the wreck of its economy, and the effects of nuclear winter come into play. Let's be thankful that we're only discussing hypotheticals in a video like this. The United States likely has priority targets in a nuclear attack against a coalition of its enemies, and we can reasonably guess what these would be, but the entire world would be affected. There's no such thing as precision nuclear warfare. What other targets do you think would be high priorities for the United States in a nuclear World War III, and why? And how would America attack them? Don't forget to let us know in the comments. Also, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more military analysis from military experts.